Okay, today we're going to be transferring your drawn Gestalt images into Illustrator. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you a quick tutorial of sorts into Illustrator CC. Now, if you have Creative Suite or Illustrator 6, the tools are pretty much the same. I only have roughly 12 minutes, 13 minutes to go through this tutorial, but it'll get us a good start, and those of you who've missed anything in class, this will be a good refresher course for you. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to show you that I have selected application frame. Now, why application frame? Well, a good instance or reason is that I can hold the whole window together, and with all of the panels and menu bars in one screen. And as you can see, I have my panels over here. I have over here my tools, and even on top we have my menu bar. So application frame really helps, particularly if you're working with multiple programs at once. So we're going to keep that, so make sure that's checked if you're using this at home. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to reset my essentials, because since the last time I worked in this particular piece of software, I'm not sure if I changed anything, so I'm going to reset essentials. And as you can see, they have been reset. It's the same way that I like it. Now you can make that list double or single by clicking on this double arrow over here. And over here we have color palettes, we have a swatch palette, we have a brush palette, and every time I glide over any one of these tools, what you're seeing here is that it's giving me tool tips. And this is going to be really beneficial for you who are learning Illustrator for the first time. Now, Illustrator is a vector program, as we spoke about earlier in the semester, and it is composed of layers. Now, you don't need to make layers or individual layers like you do in Photoshop or in other pieces of software, because what happens is every time you draw a vector, it actually puts it in a sublayer, which you could designate as an individual layer or not. And we'll see how that works in just a little bit. The other thing is like what you'll see here, and if I pull this out, I'm going to grab this tab, okay, and I grab the tab, and so you can see, and so what I can do is I can make new layers, or I can reverse sequence of layers, all that good stuff here by just clicking on these multiple lines. The other thing that I have here is I can I can delete a layer, I can make a new layer here with this little icon, or I can create a sublayer from two layers that are on top of one another. I can make a mask. We really don't need that in this tutorial. Or I could search for a hidden object. And if I ever wanted to go ahead and put this back in my menu bar, all I have to do is drop it in here and grab this tab, move it over, and then I'm going to click on this double arrow, and there it goes, back into that panel. Now there are a couple of things that are missing from here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on some of my type tools. I'm going to turn on my character palette, and in that palette you have the paragraph palette. The character palette allows you to select fonts. Open type is, it'll let me choose different nuances between characters if I choose, or if I'd like. Again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to minimize this. Well, I thought I was going to, oh, right here, minimize it. And then I'm going to grab this, and I am going to drop this right above my layers palette. So now I have my type tool in this particular palette, And what I'm going to do is I'm going to save it. So I'm going to say, okay, I want a new workspace. And this workspace is going to be called Bill's Workspace. And I'm going to say OK. Now if I ever start working on this and start dragging things apart, and they're all over the place, because that's just the way I am, and I'm very unorganized, what I can do is I can just go ahead and I can reset Bill's Workspace, and everything pops into place. So I can always find it. It'll always be in the same place each and every time. Now, in this assignment, there are probably only going to be 3 or 4 tools, or probably 5 or 6 tools that you're going to be using. And I don't really appreciate, nor do I want you to call these a black arrow or a white arrow, because that really doesn't tell you a whole lot. But as my tooltip is telling you, we have what's called a selection tool and a direct selection tool. I'll show you how that works in a little while. You may or may not want to be using the pen tool. It's a little bit more complicated. This is how we would do Bezier curves and create unique images. Again, here's our type tool if we want to create type. Here's line segments. And brushes and pencils are a good thing that you can use if you want. What you may probably be using the most of, and if I click on this little side arrow here, let's see if I can do it. Ah, there it is. Okay, I clicked and I held down. Okay, you'll notice that I have a whole lot of different sort of shapes that I can select. The one that I'd like you to stay away from in this assignment is the flare tool. It's a way cool tool, but the fact of the matter is it really makes a image that's going to be very complicated, hard to manage, and the size is going to be ghastly. So if you're going to create shapes, and that's probably the easiest way to complete this assignment, I would use any one of these shapes here. The pencil tool is a good way to create shapes, hand-drawn. It is easier than the pen tool to use, and there's ways that you can connect the path. Eraser, again, this is more Photoshop. Here what we can do is rotate, or if I click on any of these that have that little side arrow, here, do you see that little side arrow? Okay, what we can do is either I can rotate, I can make my image reflect, and we'll probably see if we can get that to work as well. The shape tool, that gives me the possibility to shear it, which means to kind of drag it off at an angle, or to scale it. Oftentimes what I do is I use this tool here. And this tool here is a free transform tool. It almost does everything that these two tools do by selecting one tool. And it gives you a little bit more freedom. The gradient tool, again, it's a little bit more complicated than one would think it is. I would like you to concentrate on just using black and gray and white in this assignment. This is going to be the way we're going to manage artboards. And the way we're going to set up this document to begin with is to create multiple artboards, and then we'll go from there, and we'll just be able to click between artboards and create our artwork there. The other thing is this tool here, the slice tool. This slice tool is used primarily for web projects. It's becoming less and less useful because with CSS, the advent of CSS, cascading style sheets, we can do a lot of things in code that we'd have to resort to images previously. The hand tool, that allows me to move images up and down or around my page. We'll be using that. And the zoom tool. And What you'll notice is when I start using some of these tools in this exercise, what we're going to do is I probably will start using my quick key commands. So this has to do with our colors in through here. And really to get this to work properly, what we're going to do is to have to actually create some files. Now I do have some time to go ahead and create these files. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to New. Now Illustrator provides us a number of possibilities of creating files, and it'll do it for us. What I'm going to do is first of all name my file, Gestalt. Okay, images. You can call it whatever you want, but this is a way Illustrator will be able to keep track of it in its cache. The profile I've set up as custom. We'll explain that a little bit later in our class. But right now, if you would go web, you'll be fine with web. You'll notice our measurements is in pixels. We've covered that. And these sizes right now are set to 960 by 560. And that's going to give us a nice rectangle to work with. And we will be able to manipulate these images further in our lesson or in the coming weeks. So now I'm asking you this week to create 11 different images. And the reason I'm asking you to create 11 images is because I want you to consider what the home page will look like. As I said, we're using these Gestalt images to start building a website. And so we are going to have some sort of a home page image. If you want to use one of the images you created on the interior, that's quite all right. Now here we're going to this is the way the artboards are going to be laid out. It's going to be 4 columns, and so you'll have 4 columns and probably 3 rows. 3 times 4 will equal 12. So the last column, the last row will probably be 1 short or 2 short, something like that. It's going to be short nonetheless. Okay, so I'm going to say okay. And so here we have a page for every one of our images. Now I'm coming up to the end of this particular video, at least the time that I have. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop it, and I'm going to number this Illustrator 1, and then I will begin kind of moving forward in the next video.